Hey, welcome back to the shop here at Hemmings. Today we're working on a very cool and very original 1970 Chevy C10 short bed. We're going to be making some drivability upgrades to this truck, but we don't want to change the look of it. We're going to start out by showing you the parts we got, let you know what we have in mind, and then we'll get into the work. All right, we're back here with our buddy Glenn, sometimes known as C10 Glenn. This one is special, so tell me, how did you acquire this thing? Where did it come from?
This truck, literally, I've heard about it forever. It was a local, like one town just over the state line, and a gentleman had ordered it new when he found out his wife was pregnant, 69, beginning of 70, and he ordered the truck special. He wanted it black with a green interior. And it came in, and like I said, I'd heard about it, I'd never seen it. Just before COVID one day, I was, headed home from some parts run, and I saw it on the lawn, and it was like, and like around traffic, pulled in. Older gentleman was outside washing it, and my excitement was really hard to hide. He wasn't having it. He didn't really want to meet me. And, then I broke down and just said, I was born in 1970. I have another 70 short wheelbase. I chased it for 26 years. So, he mellowed out. And he told me the story about, the truck was never going anywheres. It was going to be his daughter's when something happened to him. And then, 5-6 years ago, I don't know exactly, but he had passed away.
I know everybody you knew was reaching out who knew that truck was sitting there, and so you wound up with it. Now it's yours.
Yes, and basically I look more as the next caregiver.
Right.
Because this truck is so clean, it deserves to be preserved, but yet used.
Okay.
And enjoyed.
So you made a deal, you got the truck, and last summer you were driving it. It was, you had a chance to be behind the wheel of a C10 the way it was when they were new.
It was so nice. The big dumb grin you can't hide. I can't even hide it right now. It was second to none, and I had a 12 and a 14-year-old, and we would go and enjoy it. And I went up to pick them up from soccer one afternoon in the fall, and as we were coming down the hill from the school, it became an educational event. The brakes went right to the floor, so I had to teach the boys to downshift, and then we looked at the other pedal all the way over to the left and hoped it worked, and it did. So we used emergency brake, coasted into the intersection, and then the next hope was that it released. And oddly enough, it released. And we drove it home, and maybe for 3 more days like that. But after that, it became a parts hunt.
Yeah, so the brakes go out, turned out to be the master cylinder. But the other part of this is when the brakes went bad, you wanted to get rid of the drum brakes. 70 trucks only came with drum brakes, right? So
yep. I want to keep a 6-lug. We've got the 15x8 6-lug wheels, the dog dish cap. So went with a 6-lug disc, and parallel to that, I didn't want to just put a kit under the hood that was just a blingy. So I got a hold of Dennis out at Hidden Valley Performance and walked the yard, and he had a 71, 72 complete setup that was pounded, from the Northeast. So sent out the original Delco Moraine booster out to Southern California. The proportionating valve went down to Virginia. Both of them were restored, and we've got a line kit, so it'll go in and look
when
correct.
Somebody opens the hood, it's going to look like GM did it, even though it's a 70, and these are 71, 72 parts. They're the GM parts. It's going to have the right look.
Yep.
You've had that restored and aged to give it kind of the blend-in look. So drop spindles, we've got some controls for the transmission we'll get into as we go through. One thing over here that maybe requires a little explanation is this glove compartment lid, which has a brand new looking service parts identification sticker in there. So these are all the codes for all the things you've added.
Yeah.
And like all the other stuff that's coming off the truck, you're keeping all of it. Everything that we're doing is a bolt-on and can be put back the way it was.
Correct.
Because it is a nice original truck, but you do want to drive it, right? You want to enjoy this thing.
Yeah.
First thing we're going to do is get into the trans swap. We've got a 700-R4 here. Junior's going to come in and give us a hand, and I guess that's it. Let's get into the trans swap now.
Cool.
All right, so it's time to pull the transmission out. I'm very pleasantly happy to see that this is a truck pan, so it does have a drain on it, which is fantastic. I don't have to drop the pan off. So first thing we're going to do is drain the fluid and start ripping this thing out. drive out. That's the little gear that spins your speedo cable to give you a reading. This is it, coming down. Hopefully it's coming down on the jack. How you like me now?
Turbo Hydromatic 350 is out. Turbo Hydromatic 700-R4 is poised and ready to go in. So you guys probably know the TH350 is a 3-speed, was used in tons of cars. They come with 3 different tail shaft lengths. This is the short one, 6-inch. This is what you'd find in a typical Camaro or a Chevelle. The 700 only comes in 1 length, and it does have a removable tail shaft housing, but again, there's only one. So the Turbo 700-R4 is longer than this short tail Turbo 350, and we'll have to accommodate that by shortening the drive shaft or getting another drive shaft that is shorter. Now, some differences between these and why we're doing this. Again, I've already said this is a 3-speed, this is a 4-speed. The 4-speed has overdrive, that's why we're doing it. One of the tricks to doing the swap is that the 700 uses a lockup torque converter. And you really need to keep that lockup converter if you're doing a swap, because one of the reasons it's there is that when you shift into overdrive, the added load will make a torque converter slip more. So if you're going on the highway for a long period with a load on and no lockup, it could tend to overheat the trans fluid. That's why GM started using the lockup. It's the only electrically controlled part of a 700-R4. The rest of the transmission works just like this Turbo 350. It's all mechanical. On the cars that these came in, the computer on board would run the lockup converter. There are some GM trucks from the factory in the early 80s that did not have computers. They used vacuum switching. That's what we're going to do. We're going to use a kit from Painless Performance to control that converter. Now here's another significant difference. Turbo 350 has what we call a kickdown cable. Hooks to the throttle linkage. It's there essentially for forced downshift. When you hit the throttle hard, it drops a gear. This cable on the 700-4R is a TV cable, a throttle valve cable. And the 700 relies on this for throttle position. It runs a valve that changes line pressure, and it's essential that this is not only hooked up, but adjusted correctly. It's not going to shift correctly if that isn't right, and if you drive it without the cable hooked up or with it adjusted improperly, you can smoke the transmission. So we have some bracketry that we'll show you once the transmission's in the truck for how to get that hooked up correctly to the quadrajet that's already there. The lockup converter in this one is essentially stock. This truck is going to be a cruiser. It's not going to be doing any racing or anything like that, so a nice tight converter is fine. Drive shaft output spline is actually the same on the 700 and the 350, so all we have to do is shorten the shaft. We don't need to change the yoke on it. Shift linkage is a little different on the tube, but we're pretty sure that we can take the linkage piece off the Turbo 350 from the truck, bolted right onto the 700, and just get the stock column shift linkage to work. And again, the only real trick to it is controlling that converter, and we'll get into that after we have the new transmission up in the truck.
Hey, man.
Hey.
What's up?
So we've got the whole transmission finally bolted in. The biggest fabrication we had to do was a cross member. The 700-R4 is actually longer, so we had to move the cross member back approximately, what, 3 inches?
It was 3 13/16.
To put a fine point on it, 3 13/16. We also had to slot the transmission mounts in the cross member, 3/4?
I did 5/8.
5/8?
Yeah, it was about a ½ inch, but I went a little bit.
All right, so that's slotted, it's all bolted in. Next, we need to measure the drive shaft. So Glenn can go take that to the drive shaft shop.
On paper, I measured a 3 1/4.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll take
3
a quarter.
1/2.
I'll go to the drive shaft shop.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, the transmission is bolted in. Glenn is off to the drive shaft shop with the drive shaft. That leaves us to get the painless torque converter control kit installed. So I mentioned earlier that if you're doing a transmission swap like this with a 700-R4 or a 204R that has a lockup torque converter, you're going to need a way to run that converter if you're putting it in an older vehicle that doesn't have an onboard computer. That's what we're doing. There's a lot of kits on the market to help with that. We're using one from Painless Performance. I like this kit because it uses a vacuum switch, and the vacuum switch is going to help to make it operate more like it would in a factory application. Some of the kits that are on the market just lock the converter up when the transmission shifts into 4th gear, and that can be a little abrupt. The vacuum switch is going to help with that. This kit also has all the other parts you need to do this. It's got another 4th gear pressure switch. It's got a new torque converter lockup solenoid. It's got the harness to go with it. It also has a new brake pedal switch, because to do this you need the double switch. That's here with the harness, the plug for the case connect. It comes with a new case connect as well, which just fits right in place of the original, and the brackets to mount the vacuum switch and the hardware you'll need. So it's kind of complete, and of course it's got a new gasket. So we'll show you how this goes together when Junior starts putting it in the transmission. Okay, so we're gonna pull down that servo cover to give us a clear shot at the pressure switch that's in there already. You have to use a socket on it, and it's better to use the socket than to try to wrestle out with pliers or something and screw something up, so.
So this servo does have a fairly strong spring in it, so you do want to hold up on the cover so it all doesn't come flying out in your face. So there is a spring in there. It's not real long, but it does have some tension on it, so just be aware of that. So that's 1 1/16", and the only one I have is this, ouch, this old bronze wrench. I don't even have an 1 1/16" socket, but.
Is it bronze because it was intended for something?
I assume it's spark proof or something. I don't know. I acquired this thing so long ago, I don't even remember where I got it. I think I just got it in a tool lot that I purchased, but it's funny.
So
If it works.
if you're gonna be working on your 700-R4, get yourself a bronze wrench that looks like something from a Model T toolkit.
1 1/16". It went that way, right?
Do you want to?
No. That way. That way.
All right, next step is the original torque converter clutch solenoid has to be removed, and the wiring harness that's in here that we need to take out is permanently attached to that. So the solenoid has to come out, and then the wire will come down with it.
Basically strip the whole harness right out of it,
Yep.
right? There we go. There. Put the wire where it was before. And that pushes up in the case connector.
Yep. All right, so the red wire goes to the case connector that we just popped in, and once that's back on, the pan goes back, well, the filter goes on, and then the pan will go back on.
RTV is really not necessary. Probably the biggest thing you want to do is just make sure that your pan is flat. If some monkey has over tightened the holes, the bolts and blown these out, you just want to take a little hammer and tap them flat again. You just want to make sure the surface is flat. Don't need a ton of torque because this, especially on the cork and just the cheap black rubber gaskets, you can actually split the gasket by over tightening it. So
This pan seems like it's in nice shape because I'm guessing that Mark at
Yeah.
the transmission shop already went around and tapped everything back into place.
just get a few started and make sure your gasket hasn't fallen inside.
All right, the vacuum switch has to go somewhere up near the engine, the firewall, anywhere you want to put it really, according to the instructions. It comes with 2 different brackets, and I've already mounted one, and of course, it looks like we need to use the other one, so I'm going to swap it over. We're going to put this bracket on the back of the cylinder head, because we kind of know that Glenn is going to want this switch out of sight.
Next, we plug in our connector here to our case fitting. And our one purple wire is going to go up to our vacuum switch, which is going to go on the back of the cylinder head.
So the only thing left for the painless kit is the brake light switch. So we'll do that top side, but we have the trans lines to put in.
Oh yeah, and the torque converter cover, but that's easy.
These cooler lines are supposed to be 4/700 swap in one of these trucks, so hopefully just got to take the shipping bend out. Hopefully that.
Always the shipping bend.
And hopefully they'll fit right up in there, and then I think we can come down.
All right, so now we just need to change our factory brake light switch with this one, which will have the factory brake light switch on here, and then our torque converter lockup control here. And the beauty of this setup, I believe the factory plug will go right into this. Crawl under here, take the old one out. Better than the Corvette, I'll tell you that much. I don't use that word anymore. Is that now a 4-letter word? Vet is a 4-letter word. Yeah.
Brake and off. Okay, you want me to tell you when they're coming on?
Sure.
Go ahead. On, off.
Perfect.
Okay. So what we're doing here is that new brake pedal switch that Junior just put in is actually a double switch. It's going to turn the brake lights on, of course, but it's also going to interrupt power to the torque converter clutch. Normally on a car that came with a lockup converter, when you step on the brake, it unlocks the converter, and that switch is part of how it does it. The switch is the same one that's used on cruise control cars. It's a GM style switch. It fit right into the bracket under there. We were a little concerned about that. And it has an adjustment on it, so we just wanted to get it set so that the lights come on when they should. And it looks like it's all working correctly. All right, when we left off, Glenn and Junior had measured the drive shaft to see how much it needed to be shortened. Then they sent it out to the drive shaft shop. It's back now, it's ready to go, but we ran into another snag. When Glenn had the transmission built, he had the transmission tail shaft housing swapped because it came out of a 3rd gen Camaro, had the mount for the torque arm. We thought that might be a conflict. The piece that Glenn found, he thought in his research could accept the bullet speedometer drive from the Turbo 350. And that hole does look like this would go right into it. Turns out that would not work. This actually is for an electronic speedometer drive. That I think is for an electrical plug. It won't work with what we need. So what we discovered was what we need is this piece, which you can see has a much bigger hole in it than the one we had. And what it requires is this style of speedometer drive, which is much bigger. Glenn got this new, he got this used, we got the parts in hand, so Junior's in the process of swapping that out. But he also needs to swap, we think, the plastic gear on the output shaft.
Yep.
So what's the deal with that? I know
These are actually incredibly easy. There's just a little clip right there that you just push up. So that slides off, and that little clip just tabs in a hole there, and the edge of that clip holds the speedo gear on. Now with the Turbo 400s, there's actually 2 holes here in the shaft. You want to do the most forward one. If you try and use the other one, your gears are not going to mesh. So definitely use the forward hole for your clip. So we have our new gear here, and apparently it's the same 16 tooth. But since we're going with all new anyways, we'll just swap out the old one, put in the new one. Slide that on, clip goes in the forward hole. And you line it up with a slot, compress it, and that's it. That's all that holds it there. And now we put on our new used. I just put a little grease on there because it's an O-ring. You don't need to use RTV. If you do, you need a new O-ring. So checking out the Speedo drive here, because you always check your new parts, right? And I was just making sure there was no burrs on the shaft or anything, but then I noticed the seal in here. There is a little clip that retains the seal, and the seal, I'm guessing when they assembled this, they popped the seal right out. So if you threw that in, it wouldn't seal, you'd be leaking fluid. So always check your new parts. And because it was sitting on the shelf, the seal is kind of deformed, so that's never going to keep fluid in. Thankfully, we have a complete kit, and there's the clip that holds it in. So we have a complete kit that has a new seal. And with all seals, you always want to put the taper in because you're trying to hold fluid in. So it goes in like that, and then we sink that down. There is a little landing or ledge there that it fits on. And we take our new clip, and there is no ridge or anything in there, it's just kind of a friction fit. Just push that in until it's bottomed out. And holding that in, that's how that looks. Now I'm going to just put a little grease on the shaft just to lubricate it. When I install it, you just want to turn it as it goes in so you don't damage the seal.
All right, so all that is left is to feed this drop shaft through there.
Yep.
There it is.
Oh, hold the tape off.
We're gonna have to take the tape off, but
Yeah.
it fits.
Okay.
All right. All right, the drive shaft was the last piece of the puzzle for our 700-R4 Overdrive swap. We're gonna bring the truck down, fill the transmission with fluid, and we still have to adjust the TV cable, but in order to do that, we have to drive the truck, and we can't do that right now because it has no brakes. So, in the next video, we're gonna get into our front disc brake swap, and we've also got some suspension parts to put on for that. Then, we're gonna hit the road with this thing and see what we got. Meanwhile, keep an eye on Hemmings YouTube and socials, and as always, thanks for watching.